Hello, hello, and welcome to the Borealis Experience. I'm your host, Aurora, and I'm very delighted to have Eric Winters with me today. We had a quick chat and got to know each other a little bit. And what strikes me is that Eric is working towards awakening and enlightenment and helping people to reconnect to their heart. The most important mission and vision that I heard from him today is to live an authentic life. That if we don't live authentically, we will regret it one day. And all too often, we are not aware that we are living a life to please other people or in order to belong to a certain group of people. And then at the end of the day, when life is over, we think about what we could have done. We think about our passions, our desires that we neglected in order to fit in order to not upset our dad or our mom. And it is a huge awakening to be aware of this. And I'm very excited to be talking about this with Eric. Would you like to invite us a little bit into your life, into your past, and how was your journey like? Were you always aware of your steps, of your choices, or did you make mistakes in the past and learn from them? When did your journey of awakening start? And we just go from there.
My goodness, Aurora, hello from Sydney, Australia. How long do we have? Right, I'm going to try to keep this fairly condensed. Where did my journey of awakening start? I used to live in the UK. I grew up by the seaside in England, hunting for crabs and shrimps in rock pools. I had a very happy childhood, splashing around looking for wildlife. And ultimately, I went away from home, studied, and I thought I was going to be the next David Attenborough. There's a confession, Aurora. My mission as a child was to become the next person on TV talking about little animals scurrying around in the background and to speak in soft voices about the marvels of nature. And I still love nature today. I love immersing myself in the natural world and moving through it. But I'm not. You may not have seen me on any TV documentaries. Instead, what I found myself doing was moving into the world of IT. I became a computer consultant, and I was working in very high-pressure organizations. If you work in IT, there's generally an emergency happening. It's really one emergency after the other. So, for example, we might be managing the computer system that IBM uses to help Qantas to sell airline tickets. Now, when that system stops working, there's a lot of excitement in the office. There's a lot of phones start ringing because the fines are very, very high. So I worked in a lot of places where there was very, very high pressure. I worked in Munich for 3 years. I worked in Scotland for 8 years, the Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates in the Middle East for 2 years, and in Australia. And what I noticed was it was the same. It didn't matter which culture I was in. It didn't matter how intelligent and experienced people were. There were some leaders, when the pressure was on, would find the best in themselves. They could manage their minds under pressure. And not only could they get the best out of themselves, they could get the best out of others. And it was wonderful to watch. But there were other leaders just as clever, just as smart, just as experienced, who, when the pressure was on, would begin to panic a little, get a little anxious, as you might. But then they couldn't manage their experience, and they would unfortunately infect their teams with their worry, and everyone's performance would drop, and problems would take 7 or 8 times as long to solve. And I was curious. I thought, hang on, what's making the difference here? And I discovered there's a wonderful world of science. There's been a lot of research into how we can manage our minds under pressure, how we can do that, how we can get the best out of ourselves, how we can choose to show up as the kind of people we'd really like to be when things are tough. When things are easy, it's not so hard to make good decisions. But it's when we're all under pressure that when things are difficult, when there's been loss, when there's been disappointment, setback, betrayal, it's under those circumstances that all of us find it harder to make good choices. And I discovered, to my delight, that there's a lot of different strategies that people can use. And these are skills that we can all develop to get better at doing what's important, but hard. Doing what's important, but hard. And you were talking earlier on about authenticity. And this word is bandied around such a lot now. You've got to be authentic. You've got to be authentic. And it can kind of wash over you. But I'd suggest that there's actually nothing more important in life than authoring your own life. That's to say, developing the skills to decide what's important to you and authoring a life that's as close as it can be to that. I live in Australia, and a wonderful Australian palliative care nurse, Aurora, called Bronnie Ware, was taking care of people in the last few days and weeks of their lives. And she was with people, hundreds of people, during those last days. And throughout her work, she kept hearing the same lifetime regrets again and again as people confided in her and let her know what they really regretted. And Bronnie published a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the number one regret of the dying now directs my mission in life, because she heard this more often than anything else. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life that others expected of me. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life that others expected of me. It turns out that courage isn't something that we're born with and we've either got it or we haven't. It's something we do. It's something we do. It's an ability which every single one of us can get better at. We can get better at choosing to do the hard thing when it's important. And so what I do now is I go into organizations, small charities, big corporations, and I help professionals at all levels in organizations to develop mind skills, really, their mind skills, so that they can, one, identify what do they care about? You know, what's actually really important to them, not what their parents say, not what their culture says. And the culture has an awful lot to say about what people of a certain age, from a certain background, with a certain skin color, what they ought to aspire to. No. We try to tease that apart, the expectations of others, and identify, actually, what lights me up? What ignites me? What fuels me personally? So I help people to identify that, and then I teach them the skills. And they're just skills, and we can all practice them to get better at noticing fear and discomfort and worry. What will someone say if I do this? If I really go for the career that I want? Mm-hmm. If I really ask this person out and I risk rejection? If I attempt to learn this new, I don't know, it could be a new skill, playing a musical instrument. What if I fail? What if others laugh? I help people to manage their minds so that they can be with anxiety and fear, not to get rid of it, not to get good luck with that. Good luck getting rid of fear. But what we can do is get better at being with, not suppressing and pushing away, not exaggerating, but allowing and dialing down a little, but being with fear whilst we take actions that are aligned with lives which are authentic to ourselves. That's what I do now, and that's what really drives me each day. It's hugely rewarding, Aurora, to see people increasingly live their own lives that are true to themselves.
I can imagine that. Yeah, to see someone finally step up for themselves and to live their true life, speak their truth is so beautiful to witness. And what you mentioned as well is that there's a lot of fears and doubts coming up once you are on that path. And to know that fear and anxiety is part of our lives. I feel a lot of times we try to navigate through life avoiding these uncomfortable feelings, and we think this is success, but it is not. It is pushing through, going through, allowing those feelings to be there, but not feeling dominated by these feelings and then ending up giving up. What I would like to know, Eric, is did you notice once you started being authentic and living your truth that your relationships around you changed? Did you lose people? Did you gain people? How was your personal experience with becoming authentic and walking your truth?
Well, I think on the occasions in which I have conspicuously done something important that matters to me, others have noticed and have fed back to me and said, oh, I wish I could do that, for example. So I was living in Scotland for 8 years, and I loved Edinburgh, but it was very cold and it was very damp, and I was ready to warm up. To be quite frank, I was ready to warm up a little bit, and I was offered voluntary redundancy, and a lot of people saying, no, don't leave. It's a very dangerous world out there. Stay safe. Stay in the comfort zone. It's voluntary redundancy. You don't have to take it. Stay where you are. Better the devil you know. Better the devil you know. And now I think that was the first time I took a really bold leap. And I gave up my work. I had no job to go to, but I just chose, no, I'm going to step out. I had to make a decision quickly. I was told I had a week to decide whether or not I wanted to accept this little payout. And I did it. And I went off to work in the Middle East. But a lot of folks said, oh, I wish I could do something like that. Start afresh, go on an adventure or something. And there were a number of occasions. And you know what? I think we all model behavior all the time. I think we all underestimate just how impactful our own behaviors are to others. We underestimate our impact. We are all influencing other people every day in everything we do. So if you do take a courageous move that's observed by somebody else, there's a ripple effect. It will ripple out to other people. And other people's acts of courage ripple towards me too. And I feel myself, on a lake, when there's a ripple, it sort of lifts things up. As the ripple goes out, it lifts everything up. On a lake, it might just be ducks. But in real life, if you do something bold, Aurora, something courageous, we're all moved by that. And we're all, as the ripple comes out, it's like we're all lifted up a little by the acts of courage of other people. So I allow myself to be lifted up when I notice other people doing courageous acts. And it helps me to be a little bit more courageous.
This is very beautifully said, and I know people will understand exactly what you're saying. Sometimes, though, I feel that this ripple effect of courage and bravery triggers people and challenges them because they don't feel like they have the same tool set as you, and there's jealousy and criticism coming up, which is also good because then they can reflect about it and see, oh, what can I change? What do I have in my power? How do you recommend dealing with people, for instance, you expected support from, and all of a sudden you realize they are not there yet, and they are not supporting your new path, your courageous path.
Yes, yes. And it's almost a certainty that there will be others who disapprove
Yes.
in life. There will, that's going to be part of taking courageous action. Anytime we lift ourselves up, because you may be embarrassing them. If you take a bold move, you're reminding them that they are not living, potentially not living a bold life that's authentic to themselves. So expect to annoy people. But what I would say is that, yeah, how do we navigate that?
Yeah.
And we need to resource ourselves, Aurora, so that we have the resilience and the capability to be with this discomfort. I've written a book called Swipe Right on Your Best Self. And in it, I describe the 3 human predicaments that, if left alone, will hold us all back. So it's not that we're defective or flawed. We're supposed to be fearful. And there are 3 human predicaments animals don't have that hold us all living smaller lives, keep us all sort of constrained and captured. But there are simple steps, and I'd like to share a few of them with you now, so people don't need to get the book. But there are 3 mindsets that, if we practice them, will enable us to be with disapproval of others and still be able to choose to do what matters. The first mindset that's so important to cultivate, let me just take a step back. All of us our courage is depleted by our culture. So it's my opinion that all of us live in a culture which is continually telling us that we are not enough. So if you look at advertising, what it's really saying is, look at this poster. Do you see how you're not popular enough? Do you see? Do you see how you're not attractive enough? Can you tell? You're not rich. You're not rich enough. Are you as rich and popular and as attractive? Do you have that car, that speedboat, whatever? This is how advertising works. It creates a sense of neediness and lack. So we get these messages. How often do you see an ad, Aurora? How often would you say in your life do you see an advert promoting something that you don't have?
I would say I'm bombarded with those messages, and now social media makes it even worse. It is not like an ad, but it's other people, and this creates a gap between people as well, right? Because of comparison,
yes,
jealousy, and
well, you're so right. I think it's almost like we're being machine gunned with advertising messages everywhere you place your eyes. If you go outside, there'll be adverts. If you turn on your computer, and your social media, yes, is not only saying, look at these things you don't have, but also look how much happier everybody else is.
Yeah.
You see, you're not happy enough. And you would be if you got our fragrance, everything would change. If you were to get the fragrance we're selling, then suddenly you would be, everything would be fine. And if it doesn't work initially, then you haven't bought enough of it. You need to redose. So the problem with all of this is, mentally, we get it. We know what advertising does. You look at it and you understand. But when we're exposed to advertising, our conscious mind understands what they're doing, but our unconscious mind believes it. It drinks it in. It's true, I'm not that attractive. Yeah, that does hurt a little bit. It would be nice to be more popular. It would be nice to have more money, to be more. So inevitably, we feel less. There's a solution to this, and there are no billboards advertising it because nobody makes money out of it. And this is ancient wisdom. The Stoics knew this. 2,000 years ago, Epictetus said, if you'd like to be happy, learn to want what you already have. Learn to want what you already have. So I call this attitude defiant gratitude. It's defiant because the world is telling you You're not enough. You need to buy more. You need to be different. You're not enough as you are. Not rich enough, popular enough, all the rest of it. So if we can appreciate what we do have in life, we're not saying that's I'm going to stop there, but if we can just value the things that we do have, the ability, I'm talking to you and you're around the other side of the planet, Aurora. We're talking in real time. It's easy to take miracles for granted, but we live in a miraculous age. I can get a book out of the library for nothing, for nothing. Can you imagine how amazing that would have seemed just for most of human history? Now, I know books are quite recent, but they were precious items. They were like solid blocks of gold books when they first arrived. Very hard to get them. Now you can get any books you want. I've got hot and cold running water. Emperors, for most of history, have not had hot and cold running water. We live like emperors, Aurora. And we do. You're Empress Aurora and Emperor Eric. You're in charge of Canada. You're doing a good job. I'm struggling a bit with Australia, but we all of us, we all live like emperors. So let's acknowledge it. Now, by spending just a few moments each day, we're not talking about wallowing in this, a few moments, just valuing what we already have, connections, sunlight, a roof over your head, perhaps, or maybe something to eat, a hot coffee, small things. Practicing gratitude for brief bursts actually emboldens us. We become emboldened. We're more capable to do what's difficult, even in the presence of potential disapproval or anxiety. So that's the number one attitude, defiant gratitude. Cultivate that. The second mindset, which I encourage people and show people how to develop. I don't just tell people go away and get defiant gratitude. We have a lot of exercises. But the second mindset that we practice developing, we get better at, is one of self-compassion. And I'm very inspired by Christine Neff's work, and the world's leading researcher on self-compassion. And Christine shows that people who practice self-compassion are more courageous. They are bolder. When we're kind to ourselves, you didn't choose, Aurora, to be born into a human mind. Thank you very much. With worries and fears and doubts. You didn't pick your parents, I'm imagining. I'm guessing you didn't pick your parents. You might not have picked your schooling. You know, an awful lot in life we didn't choose, but bang, here we are. Oh, look, I'm in a human body. It's got a human mind. It talks a lot. It's very, very worried. Here I am. You're entitled to have a little bit of self-kindness for your predicament of being in a human body. Now, this isn't the same as letting yourself off the hook and saying, oh, I'll just indulge myself in chocolate and alcohol. That's not very kind. That's not a very kind thing to do to yourself. Christine talks about fierce kindness. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do to ourselves is give ourselves a kick up the butt and get out there and start doing things which are truly kind for us. It might be changing our diet a bit. I can confess to that. I ought to be a little bit more selective about what I'm eating during our current Sydney lockdown. Could be exercising a bit. It might be applying for a different job. I don't know what, but she says we should be practicing not just tender kindness, but a fierce kindness. Kindness is the first part, but in her package of self-compassion, she also includes mindfulness. And she says the ability to be able to be honest with yourself about life's difficulties, not to exaggerate them and not to push them away, to just be honest and to hold it in balanced awareness. Actually, you know what? The thing I'm going through just now, it is tough. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Actually, these circumstances I'm going through right now, they are hard. And she said, being honest with yourself is a key component of self-compassion. It's not trying to pretend, yeah, everything's fine here. Everything's fine. And men especially, I think women increasingly, but all men are under pressure to soldier on stoically. Misuse of the word stoic, but that's what we say, soldier on. I know, I'm not worried. Everything's fine. Putting on a brave face. That is a dishonest way of living. And people will do that if they don't know how to be with discomfort. It is possible to be with worry, fear, doubt, anger, resentment, all of those things, but to hold it in your hand in balanced awareness and not have it overwhelm you and have you acting in unhelpful manners. So I teach people how to develop self-compassion with balanced awareness. And the final mindset that I help people to develop and show people how, and they do it in workshops, and they come back and they get better and better at this, is living with what I call courageous authenticity. So the first thing is they decide, what would a life that was more authentic to themselves look like? What would they be doing more of? What values would they be doing more of? Maybe they'd be doing more learning, or maybe they'd be taking care, or maybe they've been putting off painting in their lives. Maybe at their heart, their parents said they should be an accountant or a doctor and a lawyer, and a lot of parents do, and which is why a lot of students leave in the first. About 30% of doctors, I understand, only do it because their parents said they'd be really proud. We'd be so proud if you became a doctor. But it's not just medicine. A lot of people carve lives in order to please others without knowing it. So I help people to identify what would be a life that would be meaningful to you. And it might not include very much money. Actually, it might be, you know what? I just love to grow things. I adore growing things. I love using my hands. I love painting or pottery or showing people, guiding people through cities, showing them the history. I don't know, but I help people to identify what brings them alive, what helps them to experience more vitality. So that's the first part, knowing what. But the second part is the courageous part. It's discovering how they can take steps that manifest or demonstrate authenticity whilst they have the discomfort, the worry that others might not approve, the fear that they might fail. Failure is a terrible word. The fear that they might get feedback that they'd prefer not to have. And it's a set of skills, actually doing things with discomfort. A lot of us wait. I'm going to do that thing when I'm ready, they'll say. Aurora, I'm absolutely going to do this. I'm going to go for that career when I'm ready. Now, what they really mean is when I'm absolutely confident that I cannot fail. And that is a tragic thing to do, to wait until you're ready. We need to learn to take action before we're ready. Parents are never ready for children. There would be no kids on the planet if all parents said, no, we'll wait until we're truly prepared to raise a child. You learn through the doing. Yeah. And most of life is like that. We actually get better by doing. Well, I like to say to people, I run workshops on how to write a book because I've written one. And the first thing I say, which alarms people, I say to everyone is, I need you all to know, it's really important, that you cannot write a book. None of you can write a book. But I say you don't have to. You don't have to. You just need to begin and get better. By the end, you will have written a book. But we learn to do things by going through them. Yeah, so that's the third mindset. So that's what I teach people to do. And it is so rewarding to see people cultivate greater authenticity. And this is a development thing. It's not like overnight you wake up and da-da, I'm now going to leave my job in finance and move to an island where I'm going to raise sheep authentically. I've just developed the skills to, we don't do that. No.
Yeah.
This is small incremental steps, but people love progress.
Yeah.
It's progress that's rewarding, not the end point. It's progress. So we savor the progress.
So it is truly like such an important mission that you're on, especially during COVID times now, I feel, because a lot of people have the time to reflect about their last couple years or months and realize, okay, what did I do with my life? Is this where I want to go back to, or do I want to see life in a different way? That's truly inspiring. And what I love most about it is that it is very simple. It is like going to the gym and having to learn to strengthen a muscle that you've been neglecting, or you never knew you had. And people can start today. They don't have to, I don't know, go back to university or spend a whole lot of money. There's tons of content out there where people can learn to train their mindset. This is so, yeah, beautiful, and I'm so excited to be talking to you and connecting with you here. We're slowly coming to an end here. Like, time was running away quickly. I would love you to talk a little bit more about your book. I want to put it in the show notes, but the title of your book is going to be speaking to a lot of millennials out there. And I want to make sure that people, know about you a little more and how they can connect with you, contact you, and where they can find your book. But tell us a little bit more about your book.
Yeah, so I've titled it Swipe Right on Your Best Self, Simple Steps to a Bolder Life with Fewer Regrets. And most of us now are familiar with dating apps. And it was Tinder, I think, who started this model of you presented with a face and a little bit of a description about someone. And if you see someone you like, you point to it and you swipe right. I actually learned, Aurora, last week that 30% of all relationships right now were formed online. So it's become very, very mainstream. It was a bit new and novel recently, but now it's very ordinary. People, and it's not just people we choose. You can choose pizzas on Amazon, anything you choose, you swipe right. So swiping right means, yes, I choose that. And if you don't like it, you swipe left. In life, we spend quite a lot of time thinking about the people we'd like to date, to live with, to be with. But there's a person that you spend even more time with than your dating partner. It's yourself. It's yourself. And what a lot of people don't realize is that actually we get to choose what kind of people we're going to show up as. We have choice points throughout our life. We get to decide, in this interaction with someone, how am I going to be? And we get to prioritize. Actually, I'm going to be considerate or thoughtful or caring, or I'll be persuasive, or I'll be encouraging. I don't know what. But different situations call for us to step up and demonstrate different skills. And it's a choice. It's a choice. So my book is about helping people to choose how they are going to be. We spend so much time thinking about what we're going to do. Oh, I've got to write this report. I've got to give this talk. I've got to send this blog post. We think about the task, but we don't think very much about the how we are going to be. So that's how the book got the title. That's what it's about. I'd like to reassure your listeners that actually you don't have to buy the book in order to find out if it's of interest to you. On the very front page of my website, you can download the first 40 pages for free. And actually, you'll know after reading one page. You don't even need to read 40. I promise you'll know after reading the first page if this is a book which is going to resonate for you. You'll be able to tell from my writing style. So the website is ericwinters.com.au. If your listeners, any of your listeners, I'm sure some of them are based in Australia, then yes, you can get the book. If you like it, you can get the book from me by ordering it from my website. You get a signed copy. But if not, if you're in Canada, if you're in Germany, if you're in the US, you can order it from all online booksellers. It's available everywhere in paper form and Kindle form. If people would like to stay in touch, I would love them to connect either on LinkedIn or on Facebook. All of my talks and workshops are described on my website, because this is something it's my mission now is to share the skills. Yes, they're in a book, but we don't actually develop skills by reading. We get a taste. Oh, I like the taste of that. We develop our skills by doing. And there are lots of exercises in the book so people can practice by themselves. But I do deliver talks and run workshops live online across the planet now, helping people to develop these skills. It doesn't matter where you are. We're wonderful to give a talk or run some workshops to an organization anywhere on the planet to help your people to live lives of greater, courageous authenticity.
Such a beautiful ending to this episode. And thank you so much for providing all these contact possibilities that we have to keep in touch. And I'm very touched by how lively and enthusiastic you are about this topic around authenticity. It is truly important for people to reconnect to themselves and know that they have magical forces and potential roaming inside of themselves, and they just have to learn to let it out and see it themselves, not needing other people to give them approval or anything, but to see it themselves. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart to be here, Eric.
It's a pleasure, Aurora, and thank you for the work you do in spreading important messages to a very broad community. It's been my honor.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.